driving, by definition, is the operating of a motor vehicle with an illegal amount of alcohol in your system. For each state, the legal drinking age is 21. Also, for each state, the legal blood alcohol content, or how much alcohol is in your blood by volume, is 0.08 to be legally intoxicated. Along with that law, 48 states also have penalties or fines for people who drive with high blood alcohol content levels. The dietary guidelines for Americans define a standard alcoholic drink as 12 ounces of beer or 5 ounces of wine. According to the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, a driver with a high blood alcohol content level is at 707 times higher risk than those who are sober. Most high blood alcohol content drivers are males ages 25 to 35 with past driving while intoxicated convictions. In West Virginia, if you get a DUI for the first time, the consequences are up to 6 months in jail, a fine from $100 to $500, and license suspensions of up to 15 days. If your blood alcohol content is higher than 0.15, you can get from 2 days to 6 months in jail, fines from $100 to $1,000, and license suspension of up to 45 days. If you get a DUI and are under the age of 16, or under the age of 21, you can get 2 days to 12 months in jail, $200 to $1,000 in fine, and license suspensions until the age of 21. For all these cases, an ignition interlock is possible. An ignition interlock is a device connected to your car that requires the driver to blow into the breathalyzer-like machine to determine if you can drive. If the alcohol level is above the predetermined amount, the car will not turn on. And if the alcohol level is below the predetermined amount, the car will start. The second DUI you receive can cause you to go to jail from 6 to 12 months, a fine of $1,000 to $3,000, and license suspension for 1 year. An ignition interlock is required. For the third offense, it is a felony. Jail time required is 1 to 3 years, $3,000 to $5,000 in fines, and license suspension for 1 year. An ignition interlock is required. In the latest statistics recorded, there is an estimated 10,228 people who died due to drunken driving accidents. I've had a couple reasons why I should write this paper, but I narrowed it down to one. On April 3rd, 2002, my cousin Jamie Paul went to have a drink at a local bar. He didn't think anything about it until he met this girl named Ashley. They both had a lot to drink, but wanted to leave together. Ashley thought she was capable of driving after having one too many drinks, so they left the bar together around 3 a.m. As Ashley drove, her speed increased. She was driving my cousin Jamie's Integra, which is a little two-door sports car. As they went around a smaller turn, she hit 120 miles an hour. They hit a guardrail and flipped multiple times. The car landed 100 yards from the road. During the flipping of the car, my cousin Jamie's seat broke, and he got ejected from the car through the back windshield. He landed 75 yards away from the car. In a way, he was lucky because of how close he landed to the hospital. It didn't take as long for the ambulance and cops to get there. When the cops arrived, it was 3:30 a.m. Rumor has it, when the cops got there, my cousin Jamie was lying in Ashley's arms, dead. Nothing happened to Ashley. She walked away without a scratch. When Jamie got ejected from the car, the seatbelt and impact crushed his throat. The paramedics had to perform a tracheotomy on the spot. Because of how bad his throat was, they had to cut from the bottom of his chin all the way to his sternum, and they also cut his vocal cords. His lower face and jaw was shattered. Also, the paramedics had to shock him with a defibrillator to get his heart to work again. They had to rush him right over to the hospital and perform emergency surgery. They had to put his scalp back together, stop internal bleeding, try to fix 2 collapsed lungs, and keep his throat opened. On the table, he died for 20 minutes. Jamie had a 4% chance of living through the night, and if he did, he would be brain dead. But he made it. He had to be put into a medically induced coma for 13 days. Because of him being dead on the table for 20 minutes, they partially filled out his death certificate. He was in the hospital for 4 months and a nursing home for 5. After the nursing home, he was put into rehab. Once he got out of rehab, he had to have a nurse at his house because he still couldn't eat because of his tracheotomy tube that was still in his throat. Overall, it took around a year for him to feel better. I'm so lucky that everything was okay with him. Today, my cousin Jamie is full functioning and maybe one of the healthiest people I know. He has 2 kids and works as an accountant. Right now, he's going back to college to get another degree to do accounting for the government. His story has taught me so much about not getting into the car with a drunk driver. If you or I could save one life by sharing a story, we would both be happy to do so. My song is called Invincible by Jesse McCartney. I picked this song because I think on that night, my cousin Jamie Cole thought he was invincible. The song is about a guy whose girlfriend drives drunk and dies from wrecking. The first verse said, "I said don't do it, babe. I said it ain't worth it, babe." The guy is trying to talk the girl out of driving drunk. But you did it anyway, 4 or 5 drinks and you were on your way. She did it without listening to him and had 4 or 5 drinks and decided to leave the party. September 1st, 2003, it took the life out of me, hung up the phone and raced out the door broken. That is the date it happened. He talks about how surprised and hurt he was when he got the call and left to go find her. The next lyrics are, "I tried to believe it wasn't true, but in my heart I always knew being the life of the party would catch up to you." He's talking about how he couldn't really believe it happened to someone he was so close to, and he knew one day partying and drinking too much would catch up to her and she would decide to do something stupid. Your family was waiting and crying for 3 hours. They were waiting and so worried about her. He proceeds to repeat how he doesn't want her to do it and how she had 4 or 5 drinks and still decided to leave. The next line says, "Everything was cool on a straightaway, but you took that turn during going 85 and a 35. Why, babe?" This means she was fine driving on a straight road, but when she took a turn at 50 miles per hour over the speed limit, she crashed and he's questioning why. "Every time I'm home, I pass that road. Driving alone in the street feels cold. Seeing your face, yeah, it's haunting me." When the boy is home, he drives past the spot where she had wrecked and envisions her face, and he gets upset. The next verse is, "My mind goes crazy trying to figure out where you'd be 4 years from now and what you were thinking when the lights came down. The doctors were trying to save you for 3 hours." This means he always tries to picture where they would be and what she was thinking when she was taken to heaven, after the doctors tried to save her. Then he goes to repeat how he doesn't want her to do it, but she did it anyway. The next verse is, "Whoever said that life was fair when you live without a care, when you're invincible, when you're invincible. When you're invincible, who thinks about leaving when you're living?" I interpret this as saying life isn't fair when you don't care about anything and when you think you're invincible. Also, who thinks about leaving a party when you're drinking and you're having a good time? Once again, he goes to repeat himself about how he didn't want her to drive and how she took the turn over the speed limit, and he continues to question why she would drive drunk and risk her life.